Imagine a place that's been shrouded in mystery for centuries, where ancient secrets lie buried beneath the ice. Now picture a world power with the resources to uncover those secrets and the shocking truth they've just announced. Get ready to discover the terrifying reality of Antarctica as Russia pulls back the curtain on a truth that's been hidden for far too long. Chapter: Discovery by Russian Scientists. According to the RIA news agency, Russian scientists believe they have uncovered new life forms that have been walled off for millions of years in a subglacial lake deep beneath the Antarctic ice. Following more than a decade of intermittent drilling, Russia breached Antarctica's icy crust last year and returned samples of water from a massive lake that had lain unchanged for at least 14 million years. Scientists believe that the chilly blackness of Lake Vostok beneath 12,139 feet of ice may provide a glimpse of the world before the Ice Age, as well as clues to life on other planets. After removing all known impurities, bacterial DNA was discovered that does not match any known species in world databases, St. Petersburg Nuclear Physics Institute's Sergei Bulat told RIA. If the bacteria, had been discovered on Mars, we would have said without a doubt that there is life on Mars. But this is DNA from Earth, he explained. We're referring to this living type as unnamed or unclassified. Scientists from the United States and the United Kingdom are hot on Moscow's tail, looking for signs of life in one of the most severe settings on the planet. A U.S. team reported seeing living cells under a microscope in field samples taken from the shallower subglacial Lake Whillans this year, but further research is needed to establish what types of bacteria they are and how they exist. A British endeavor to reach a third body, Lake Ellsworth, was halted in December due to drilling issues. Whether life is discovered in the ice depths may provide the greatest answer yet to the question of whether life can exist in the severe conditions on Mars or Jupiter's moon Europa. The Russian discovery was made by examining water that froze on the end of the drill bit used to bore through to Vostok, the largest of a network of hundreds of lakes beneath the ice sheet that functions as a blanket trapping the Earth's geothermal heat. On Thursday, Bulat and other members of Russia's Antarctic team could not be reached for comment. But Bulat told RIA that experts are waiting for further lake samples to validate their discovery. Due to the technologies utilized to avoid damaging the pristine lake, Russia will only collect clean water samples for study later this year, uncontaminated by drilling fluid. To address worries that kerosene and antifreeze from the borehole would seep into the lake, Russian engineers removed the drill, allowing the water to percolate up into the borehole and freeze there before returning this year to retrieve it. However, Bulat stated that the new germs were discovered after separating out species of bacteria known to occur in drilling fluid. When we tried to identify the DNA, it didn't match any of the recognized species. Bulat told RIA that the degree of similarity was less than 86%. When working with DNA, that is almost nil. A level of 90% indicates that the creature is unknown. Frozen samples from deeper in the borehole were obtained during this year's Antarctic summer season in February and are currently being transported back by boat to St. Petersburg in May. If we find the same set of organisms in a clean sample of water again, we can confidently conclude we've discovered new life on Earth, Bulat added. Chapter: The Russian Drill in Antarctica. On January 28, 1820, Russian ships Vostok and Mirny, captained respectively by Thaddeus Bellingshausen and Mikhail Lazarev, came within striking distance of the ice shelves that surround the southernmost continent on the world. A few days later, non-locals also sailed there, which provided them with the justification they needed to challenge our position as the dominant power. The search for the person whose foot was the first to step foot on the ice of Antarctica continued on in a limp fashion for a significant amount of time, up until the middle of the 20th century. When the United States of America first started working toward the establishment of an international legal regime for the management of that territory in 1948, everything began to change. The Soviet Union was not invited to participate in the debate. However, the USSR said unequivocally that it would not be feasible to partition the continent without their involvement in the process. The Soviet Union eventually established approximately 20 research bases in the West in order to demonstrate its resolve to other powers. This was more than any other state could afford at the time. A few of them are still in use in the modern day, such as the Vostok Station, which is found in one of the coldest areas on the entire globe. A record low temperature of minus 89.2 degrees Celsius was recorded there in 1983. The thermometer arrow in the region hardly ever gets above minus 20 degrees, even when it is summer, which in the southern hemisphere occurs between the months of December and February. During the second Soviet Antarctic expedition, which took place in 1957, the station was established. And then, 7 years after that, a well-known geomorphologist by the name of Andrei Kapitsa, who had conducted seismic soundings of the ice sheet, proposed that there was a massive lake underneath. The notion was finally proven correct in the late 1980s, when scientists from Russia, France, and the US collaborated on a drilling project to discover the hidden depths of a body of water that had been cut off from the atmosphere of the planet for a period of millions of years. Its surface is 3,769 meters below the ground. Fans of science fiction took seriously the possibility that there could be species there that have never been discovered before. Yet scientists were also intrigued in something else, the possibility of learning what took place on Earth tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. Sheet of ice. It is a well-known fact that the ice cap that covers Antarctica is made up of something that is referred to as atmospheric ice. This type of ice is created when solid precipitation, also known as snow crystals, falls to the ground from above. Because of the consistent temperatures below zero, they do not melt. As a result, they continue to build up year after year, becoming compacted into firn and eventually transform into ice, which begins in the interior of the continent and gradually makes its way toward the periphery. It is not hard to observe that the ice that is currently resting on the surface is relatively new, whereas the ice that is lying farther down is significantly older. If you take a core from a depth of 3,200 meters, for instance, you can estimate that its age is anywhere between 400 and 430,000 years old. In the lab, its gas and isotopic composition can be investigated in great depth to learn what processes were going on in the Earth's atmosphere at the time it was created, and what outcomes were caused as a result of those processes. Technologies related to drilling. At the Vostok Station in the 1970s, researchers started drilling boreholes to investigate the mechanisms that are related to climate change. Boris Kudryashov oversaw the team of scientists who worked at the Leningrad Mining Institute, which is today known as the St. Petersburg Mining University. They were responsible for developing all of the necessary equipment. He was the creator of the rock drilling theory known as fusion, as well as the thermal and mechanical methods for breaking through ice. The drilling of the present borehole, known as 5G, the fifth deepest, which began in 1990 with the intention of particularly penetrating the lake. The technology that involves melting ice, also known as a thermal drill, was used to construct the well all the way down to a depth of 2,200 meters while it was being dug. After that, a mechanical approach that had been refined by researchers at St. Petersburg University was utilized. Knives that were fastened to the end of a hollow tube were utilized in order to cut the ice. It would penetrate the ice further, leaving the core intact so that it could be brought to the surface later. Prior to 1998, Russian professionals were working in Antarctica with their French and American counterparts. The first one was a company that offered technical assistance for the project by providing the expedition with the necessary auxiliary gear. The second one was in charge of coordinating the transportation of Arctic explorers to the station known as Vostok. This was quite important and pertinent during the economic crisis that Russia was going through in the 90s. Near the close of the 20th century, the international partners relocated their operations to other bases. But despite this, the Americans persisted to offer their services in order to convey our scientists. However, they did so with a minor proviso, which said that under the terms of contract, Russians could only conduct glaciological research in Antarctica and could not engage in drilling activities there. The important thing to note is that by that point in time, voices from other countries had begun to be heard more frequently criticizing Russia for utilizing dirty technologies, which had the potential to damage the one-of-a-kind ecosystem of the lake, specifically the utilization of paraffin, freon, and ethylene glycol in the production of a liquid that does not freeze. The specialists are still unable to determine whether those assertions were made out of genuine concern for the integrity of the project or out of the envy of our science, which once again was eager to prove its supremacy. After all, by the end of the 90s, it had become abundantly clear that no one other than the Russians would be able to develop innovations that would make it possible to drill such a deep well and obtain samples from a relic body of water in the years to come. This was a situation that had become apparent by the end of the 90s. In spite of this, drilling operations on the largest subglacial lake on the globe were suspended in 1999 when they were approximately 120 meters from their intended surface, and Mining University got to work on developing a novel kind of pouring fluid, which they finally finished in 2003. There is a more realistic version of where one-of-a-kind drilling rigs and support equipment might be used, and this version is currently being put through its paces in the severe environments of Antarctica. On the other side of the planet, in the depths of the polar zone, there are around 412 billion barrels of oil equivalent, according to the most cautious estimations. This is not a secret, and it has been known for quite some time. Around 88% of the region's wealth is held by Russia, the USA, and Denmark, which together control the majority of these resources. Drilling in the Arctic entails working in permafrost as well as in an environment that is generally unpleasant. On the other hand, the findings reached by specialists are crystal clear. In the decades to come, the fields that are situated on the shelf of the Arctic Ocean or in the coastal zone that is adjacent to it will be the primary drivers of the expansion of the oil and gas industry. All of this indicates that the availability of indigenous technologies, in particular those that are being utilized at Vostok Station, will be a significant factor in determining whether or not our nation will continue to hold the leadership position in the production of hydrocarbons. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. And if you have any suggestions or ideas for future videos, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I appreciate your support and can't wait to see you in the next one.